Hello and good evening for this Wednesday, April 19th, 2023. We just finished watching the 8th episode of Survivor Season 44, Don't Get Cocky, Kid, titled. I'm Dave Mader, joined with Jaemeel Robinson here on Super Mader Brothers Podcasting, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitch, or you might be listening to us on the audio version, as we're here to cover another episode of Survivor, and we get our second juror tonight. Of course, full spoiler warnings for this episode if you haven't seen it already. We're assuming you have. And Jaemeel, we got a blind side tonight. You know, that's exciting. Brandon gets voted out of this game. It becomes our second juror. He got, and so did all of Ratu for that matter.
Yeah.
You know, and lots to break down in this episode. I thought, you know, then there were 9, and we're left with 3 original Tika, Ratu, and Soka now. After this episode, and yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how this is going to play out. Some other developments tonight. We saw Carson got quite ill from the peanut butter jelly time.
Oh Lord. Do people not learn from this? It's great to get like these rewards, but you gotta manage yourself.
Sam's asking which blindside was better, Cody or Brandon? Who's Cody? Which Cody?
Cody from last season?
Yeah, I don't know how many Cody. There's been a few Codys. Oh, and yes, yeah, and we did lose Keith Nail. I believe at age of 62,
yes.
Passed away.
I mentioned we have a group chat for Survivor. Keith stuck to the plan and had a great life. So congratulations to Keith. Great race that you won. I feel for his family and his loved ones. Keith seemed to be a pretty cool dude, and
yeah,
I hope his journey to Stovacor is glorious.
Keith, I'm trying to remember all the seasons. He was on at least 2 seasons, right?
He was on Bloodwater, and wasn't he on a season of The Amazing Race too?
Maybe, yeah. Like it's been a while since I had thought about him, but yeah, sad news that Keith Nail passes away. Of course, any member of the Survivor alumni, it's always very sad, especially when relatively young.
Wait, that's not true. Stop it, Dave.
Oh, he's not a senior citizen. Well, he technically kind of was a senior citizen, but
no, I mean, like, really, you're gonna be like, not gonna wish ill on anyone saying that they're gonna die, but if it was like, just want to let everyone know Purple Kelly passed away. No, Purple Kelly.
The loss of any life is tragic, of course, but
yes, every life is sacred.
Well, some more than others, but it's how it goes. And I did enjoy him as a character on the show, yes. And was said
iconic is the term I would use. That stick to the plan is a chef's kiss.
Mm-hmm.
Will be forever etched in my memory and soul. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, we had some interesting immunity challenge tonight as well, with them having to pair off in this final 10, and then eventually, like we've seen this before, where you have a partner, but then eventually you do battle at the end, usually, or something like that, because there can be only one person to wear the immunity necklace. But except for the other times when they have 2, like last episode. So it's interesting that they didn't have 2 immunity necklaces this week, but compared to the last one,
it would become like kind of ridiculous if you have back-to-back weeks of multiple winners,
right? So I guess that's what they were going with. This episode pretty much takes place all in one day, more or less. And we'll bring in our screen, kind of remembering these moments from the episode. Here, I'll bring this in. Break this down and check that out.
Yeah,
that's all new. That's new. Or no, let's try this layout maybe.
Whatever, which one? It doesn't matter.
We got this one.
Ooh. Oh, wait, sorry, wrong way.
We got that one. That one doesn't work. That's okay, but that's kind of what we were used to. Let's go back to this. I like this. Okay. All right, so Survivor 44, they come back from the vote where Matt was voted out last episode. A lot of this was like early was about how Franny was so sad a lot of it was Jam just kind of saying he was just happy he didn't get voted out here.
Did you like how long was spent in the last time on Survivor reminiscing of what happened?
Not really. I thought it was like I remember I was here last week, but it was more about Franny's fallout from the tribal where she couldn't speak at that tribal. So it's really it was kind of like we needed to get caught up, but they had to kind of explain to us. Remember how Matt got voted out and Matt and Franny were best friends in the game, kind of romantic. As far as I understand, I watched the exit interview with Matt Blankenship on Rob Has a podcast, and apparently they're a thing now. They're fully dating and whatever.
I would figure after like the way she was talking in this episode, like she lost a puppy, right? And like
she kind of did.
Yeah, and she's like, I was so scared for the puppy, and I'm alone and everything. Like him
Matt feels like home. She was like, Matt, he just feels like home. I was like, okay, like
if she gets voted out soon, they're gonna have to do a Ponderosa.
Well, I think that, I wonder how much they're thinking about the fact that Matt obviously is a huge champion for her. You saw how much he was cheering for her tonight at the tribal when she was saved. And, they got to think Matt's going to be advocating for Franny to win to everybody who enters that jury.
But would you even take his advice seriously for Franny? I wouldn't if I was coming in being like, dude, you want to hook up with this girl. I'm not taking your advice in terms of you're not being objective, dude.
Maybe,
no,
but I maybe initially, sure. But you got to remember, they spent this is day 15 today. So by the time they're going to vote somebody for the winner, that's in 11 days. That's 11 days where he could campaign. That's 11 days of meals at Ponderosa. There's a long time.
Dave, if you had 11 days with Matt, they would probably have to separate you with security because you'd be pissed off about him talking about Franny all the time.
Maybe,
this French fry reminds me of Franny. So crispy, brown. Like, Matt, seriously, I'm gonna stab you with that French fry. Okay, stop it.
It's not even sharp, and I'm gonna find a way to kill you with this French fry.
Find a way.
Yeah, I think maybe, I think that some people, I think that it might work on some jurors more than others. I think some people might be more receptive. If you already like Franny, you might be willing to buy that. If it depends. It's going to also depend on who their options are going to be to vote for a winner as they get down to the finals, and so.
I'm just saying, if they have a very vocal individual in the jury with Matt talking all that jazz, like if Jam Jam eventually ends up in jury, he's going to be telling Matt to shut up. Right?
Franny looks like Sarah. Looks like Sam when Sarah was voted out. Yes, we know you love Sarah. Remember Sarah?
You remember her?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Dave, do you remember who the first person voted out this season was?
Do I remember? No, I don't. I'd have to go back and look. The first voted out. Well, there was medically removed day one. Bruce. He smashed his head off the post. Does he count?
Does he count?
The first voted out.
Do we get a comment?
Maddie was actually the first voted out.
Maddie. I wish we got a quote from what's his name, Bruce, saying, I smashed my head of destiny and
I smashed my head and I changed the course of history. That would be good.
Great.
Yeah. We saw here that
I'll buy a cameo and have him say it just so I have it just tucked away.
I thought it was interesting here that after the whole Matt being voted out and Franny really crying, it was Jam Jam who became her great comforter here. And he was the one that she wanted him to go, better Jam Jam than Matt in her mind. And he was like, I'm here for you, So I thought it was a classy move on Jam Jam.
I don't think it's a classy move. I think it was a brilliant move. Because
it's just strategy.
Why wouldn't it be? I hope it is, because at the end of the day, you can take someone as real. There's a lot of trust that can be built from this, right? If someone is very open in terms of their emotions and how they feel, even if it's against you, right? That when it's time for that person to show that same loyalty that they've shown in the past, or is able to express themselves in a way where you're like, this is the same the dude before that was open and honest about how he was feeling, and saying those nice things to you, that builds trust, right? If you're Franny, you can trust Jam Jam at his word that he understood it was between him and Matt. He shows no feelings towards Franny. And at the same time, Jam Jam knows that Franny has no ill will towards Jam Jam. The reason why she feels this way isn't because she wanted Jam Jam out. She wanted Matt safe. So you can like you can take them at their word.
Now, the other thing here too, after this episode, was we saw that the Ratu were feeling strong because they had 4 people compared to Tika's 3 and Soka's 3 now. But Ratu very kind of Franny was crying. It's because Matt's gone. Yeah, we know. Yeah, like that. Tika was kind of just forgotten about. They these 3, in particular, Carolyn is completely underestimated by the non-Tika people. I think Jam Jam knows who she is, and I think Carson has some understanding, but I don't think the rest of this tribe has any clue how dangerous of a player Carolyn is.
True, I agree.
You know?
I agree.
You know, and so there's some debates here. Now there's this whole thing here where Heidi goes to Jam Jam in the episode during the night of the Matt vote. And she was like, well, I got this power and I could tell that they were probably going to vote Matt. And I knew that Lauren, if I stole her vote or made her vote, she still has an extra vote and then it couldn't change. So, you know, and Jam Jam is like, okay. But did Heidi not have the option to not use the power at all?
She did. It was only good. Like they never said it had to be used. It said that it could only be used.
Only be used. Not that it had to be used. Yeah. And so ultimately, I think Heidi did it for Franny to try, and and maybe to try to keep for Matt a little bit, because he's original Soka, and I think she would rather have kept another Soka number around. Mm-hmm. But like, I think Heidi says to Jam Jam, well, I knew it looked like it was going to be Matt, so I tried it, but I knew it wouldn't matter. I knew it was probably going to be futile. Then why do it at all? Like all it did was kind of alienate Jam Jam, because you was like, Lauren, you have to vote for Jam Jam, and and I think that Jam Jam in this vote tonight he votes against Franny. He's not part of this blindside on Brandon. The only member of Tika that was Carolyn. And so she broke
Carson.
Carson voted for
sorry, that was how it was broken down. Shoot, I gotta be careful. Sorry.
No, Carson voted for Franny tonight.
No, the way that they were breaking down the specific votes was, I believe, they detailed who was gonna vote for who, and it was planned that Carolyn was going to vote for Brandon.
Okay, so and she did.
Yes.
So because they knew that this idol was going to be played by Danny. Is that ultimately what happened here?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was
the only thing they were worried about was Jam Jam, as we later learned.
Right, but okay, I think Jam Jam and Carson now have plausible deniability with Ratu. Because they're like, hey, we voted with you. We tried to vote out Franny and it didn't work. So they have plausible deniability. Carolyn was ultimately part of this, and she got to vote out Brandon, who she didn't like anyway. So she kind of got what she wanted. And she, I don't know if you saw the preview for next week. I'll show it as we get towards the end of this podcast. But she was just like, she's had enough of Danny too. She's ready to get both these guys out, and she got the first one out in this vote. So good on her here. But I thought Heidi's what she sold her to Jam Jam. If I was him, I wouldn't have bought it. I don't think he really did.
I think it was a terrible explanation. It would have been better like if she just came clean and said, hey, you know what? It didn't work. I'm glad that you're here though, because it was a tough decision. I had to use it. Right? Something along the lines. Don't patronize people and say like, well, this convoluted story about, I had to like overthink the situation. Like, no, like you try to play it. It didn't work out.
And now you've kind of rubbed somebody the wrong way potentially. And there's only 10 people here, right? Only 9 other than you. And he's one of them you live on this beach with every day, or just this day. I guess there'll be tomorrow too. But anyway, yeah, I thought it was weak. I think we kind of agree on that. And then what else do we get here? A lot of confessionals from Jam. We see here that like the Tika knows they're in the middle and they're liking that. And that was kind of well set up. We kind of speculated that this Soka Ratu rivalry was going to continue, and it is exactly been that. Even though in the case of Carson and Jamie, they were flipped onto each of those tribes, and they kind of have gray area sort of allegiances. It is fluid here, but I'm trying to remember what Carolyn was saying. Kane was talking. Okay, let's get to the next morning where Carolyn was making some kind of like fish
crab broth,
crab broth or something. Looked like it was keeping them going. Like these little red crabs or whatever she had found. And then we see Carson throwing up. Apparently so I felt like this was like a staged vomit. Like they're like producers like, we heard you puked all night. Can you show us what that was like? And he just crawls over.
I'm like, is he looking for an idol? What the hell is he doing?
I don't know if he's really throwing up there. Like, is he? Like, maybe. But he said he threw up 8 times. But he said he was sleeping, and all of a sudden he had to just go puke, and that was that. So
you're not look, if you are sleeping and you need to puke, you don't crawl like that. You're turning over and you're puking.
Right.
Like that's
or you're choking. Yeah. Like,
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, he says the peanut butter jelly time didn't do him so well the day before. It was also given Danny farts later on in the challenge. We'll talk about that. But Carson's confessionals, I thought, were very he was very vulnerable. He was just very I knew there were gonna be rough nights out here, but this was one of the worst nights of my life. And you always these stories always make us remind us, I guess, that it's tough out there, especially if you're sick, and
just imagine if you get the runs one after one of these meals, and then you have an immunity performance that you have to do the next day, literal next day.
Yeah.
Right.
And these are tough challenges, and they don't have the luxury of fueling up on, certain kinds of foods. They do it rewards, but those are few and far between. There was no reward in this episode at all. They didn't get anything in this. He didn't give them a donut. He did nothing. No cookies, no pizza under the stars.
Yeah.
Jaemeel, none of that here. So they get the tree mail and they find out that they have to pair off. And there was kind of some discussion about, well, who's going to be Carson's partner because he's so sick and whatever. Ultimately, it's Carolyn who becomes his partner.
Good position.
I think this, this was I thought a good move on her part because she wasn't going to win this thing anyway. They didn't know what the challenge was, but her pairing up with Carson, I think only and how she struggled through that first part of the challenge, getting through that twisty thing. I think only lowers her threat level. And like we were just saying earlier, she's a very strong player, in her own way. So they know they have to pair off. So I thought this was I like the way that Carolyn is playing this post merge so far, because she's not playing kind of how she did when she was just on Tika, and she was a lot more aggressive there, I thought. Even orchestrating that blind side. She's just more right now kind of coasting and letting these other big personalities kind of go at each other, which I think is a good thing. So there was some testimonials here. We had Danny and Lauren reminding us that they both don't like each other. They both would like to vote each other out, but they're going to team up in this challenge anyway. Yeah. So that was some interesting things. And then they head off to the thing. Just skip ahead. So the challenge itself, there's a little bit. Jeff was questioning here, but you had to twist through. I always think of this as the like you're going through a colon here or something, it's
or birthing yourself.
No, but the way it twists, it's like an intestine to me,
the way they exit the thing gives me, you're either a turd or you're a baby.
I think it's a turd. I think you're coming through the mud here. It gets them really muddy. Oh, that was the one. I wish I had. I was going to pull it, but I forgot. But there was a whole part where Carolyn's covered in mud near the end of the challenge, and she's just having to watch the final stage, and she's just itchy, she just has some of these moments here. But yeah, so we saw how this went on. So I just want to remind myself of who these teams were, if we can. They're all standing there together. Where are they? Sorry. So we had Brandon and Carson, Franny and Jam Jam. I already mentioned Carolyn and Carson. Danny and Lauren were a team.
Yeah.
Heidi and Jamie Lynn. I was like, oh, the twinsies are going to team up here. They don't look exactly alike, but they have some similarities. And am I missing anybody? I think those were that was
2, 4, 6, 8. I think you got all the groups.
Right.
Danny
Okay.
and
Annie and Lauren. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so this goes on, and the whole story of this first part here was for me, Jaemeel, was Carolyn, because she was just going through, and we saw it in the preview from last week, and I just had to pull that out here, you know.
You got a twist.
Oh my god. So proposal, Dave.
Yeah.
Anytime we do a show that has a twist, a twist storyline, like, or a twist ending, you gotta play that.
Anytime there's a twist in a reality show, it's gotta be, you got a twist.
You got a twist.
Carolyn, it's the gift that
whenever there's like, especially, I don't even care if it's a Big Brother twist. We're gonna do it.
Anytime twist.
Yeah, and it was just like Carolyn struggling through this whole thing. And there's even a part where Carson's like, I think you're meant to like grab the rope and like twist while you're doing it. She's like, what? You know? Just...
I've been watching too much Carolyn on social media. I just immediately like thought of her.
Yeah. No,
like,
she's great. Great TV character. She was so fun. Like, you know, I don't care if people do well in challenges or not. Like I want them to be entertaining in challenges. Yeah, but I'd say like the story of this challenge was mostly like Kane and Brandon really dominated it most stages of this. And obviously so did Lauren and Danny as a team. Although, you know, they had to they had to go here and dig and then get the flags and everything. But I thought this first leg of the challenge was really long.
Yeah.
And Carson and Carolyn nearly almost caught up to Heidi and Jamie Lynn, who were the next last in this particular leg. So they get through. Okay. And then they get to this next stage where they had to dig into the sand, and then they had to make planks and get through the rope bridge where you have to get both your team members, and only
the least
two teams.
Part in my opinion, the least interesting part for me.
Yeah, it's not. I don't even think it makes great TV. You know, not this short of a course. So it was just like, I don't know, like this doesn't seem that fun, or whatever. But they did it, and so they got through. And we already mentioned the 4 finalists. So Jam Jam and Franny got eliminated, as did Heidi and Jamie. So then we get our final stage here. Oh yeah, you could be on Survivor. It could be you.
It could be you. Anyone.
Yeah. Okay. So the final stage was this whole thing where they had to, like, you know, put their feet up on the perches, and you got to balance there, and like increments of time go by, and you have to like move your feet down. Where it gets more, and Jeff's like, this is about pain, just pure pain. You can't, you know, like, I'm like, way to psych them out, Jeff, coming out here. Not surprisingly, Kane and Brandon did the worst. Like, they were the first 2 out of here. I think this is always harder. The bigger your feet are, the more weight you have. And it's not that surprising that Lauren wins this, although Danny nearly did. However, you have to get to this stage. You know, you have to power through those first 2 stages in order to be here at all. So, you know, I think like Jamie and Heidi could have done quite well at this. You know, maybe not. Maybe Franny. Probably not Jam Jam. So, but who knows?
No,
you know?
Definitely not Jam.
Yeah. So
maybe made people laugh to avoid it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. We just watch these people up on perches for a while, you know. It kind of goes on and on. Let's get shot. Okay, and try to get. So King goes up first.
Yep.
Oh, hold on. I got to restart this now.
Sorry, you can kind of, folks. What you don't know, while Dave is setting things up, is typically how the magic works with this is I literally come from right after work. watch it, sometimes on the road watching it, and then immediately start podcasting. Sometimes I get tired, and you can kind of see my energy kind of drifting a little bit. So that's why we have our official sponsor, who isn't sponsoring us yet technically, is Soju. Soju is the official, is the official drink of me being ready and prepared for the rest of this episode.
I have to look at the nutritional content to sign off on it.
There is none. It's made in Japan. Ingredients include water, rice, and rice koji.
It's alcoholic?
Yep.
Oh, so it's like sake.
Yes.
It
is. It's like rice based.
So I know that you had to kind of power through the challenge part of the episode pretty quickly, Jaemeel. Did you see? I want to play this clip for you and get your reaction. It's about 22 seconds.
Go ahead.
Don't lose your focus. Channel whatever you need to. Jeff. Danny. That was nice. Well timed. So glad I'm not up there.
Reactions.
Okay. Look, I am not one who will who doesn't believe. I certainly don't believe I'm above a good fart joke. That just seemed kind of lame from Danny. Danny just seems like a kid, really, and not like a puppy like Matt. It's just, I think you could have been a little bit more funny with that.
Right. It wasn't that funny. I think it was just a peanut butter jelly sandwich from yesterday's reward coming through while I was here. Okay, but I will say that what I really did like about this challenge was the fact that Lauren won it, even though she has not been necessarily my favorite character this season.
Barely a character in general.
Right, but they're starting to make her more present as we get down to the final numbers here.
Well, even Heidi too. Like, folks, like, do stuff so we can watch in the show, so we know who you are.
Yeah, well, Lauren was just so like happy. I got the clip here, And...
Danny drops. Lauren wins individual immunity. Unbelievable performance. Once again, Survivor surprises.
You freaking did.
That was amazing. Freaking awesome. My kids are going to be so proud. My kids at school and my own kids. Like, it's freaking awesome.
Lauren, come over.
Okay, well, it's almost a minute. So, okay, a couple things there. Like she was very excited. I think Jeff was very excited for her. Danny's reaction, he just
walks off.
Don't talk to me, Jam. I don't want any of this. I don't need any of your consoling. I lost to Lauren. He's very upset about it. I wonder how much of that was a motivator for him in terms of him needing to play that idol in this tribal, because I felt like he needed to make a splash or something. But yeah, so she got here. Good honor. Like, she needed a moment, I think, in this season. I'm glad she got it. Jeff even got the muddy hug, and he was all for it. He's got more shirts and hats back wherever he goes when he's not here. So Ponderosa, I guess. Okay, so they head back, and so there's kind of the discussions here about like, well, what now? Like, Ratu is kind of trying to control things here. What do they need to do? And so it initially starts here with Ratu and Carson, if he's Ratu, I guess, kind of talking about like, well, let's get out Franny. Franny becomes the target very quickly. And that seems to be the consensus, and Jam's like, goes to Brandon, you're not going after me, right? He's been kind of on the edge for a lot of tribal councils. Jam reminds us in his confessional. He's like, I've been to all but like 2 tribal councils, and I've survived all of them. I'm like, yeah, you got some cred there, Jam, but I think you're always kind of like somebody who's they see as being comfortable being on the hot seat, and it's, I think, Brandon talking. It ultimately
conversation with Franny, and then there's Carson and Jam Jam having a conversation, kind of detailing, where they stand, and then Heidi comes out of nowhere and starts talking to them.
Well, that was that's after Danny comes up to Heidi and says, "I have an idol," and we can, because I think Heidi gets word from Brandon that the target is on Franny, and so Franny Heidi decides to try to get Carson and Jam Jam on board. I think initially, or maybe it's Carson first and then Jam Jam at the watering hole is what happens here. But they do make the point here, like, yeah, Ratu's got 4, but Tika has 3 and Soka has 3, and that's 6. 6 reads 4. Makes sense?
Very true. Very true.
Right? But does Tika want to work with Soka over Ratu? I'm not, like, maybe. Like, ultimately, I think they kind of split their votes here ultimately, but they kind of were working in concert. Danny then tells Franny, "I'm going to do it." There's a lot. I don't know. Like, this is the part of the episode that I'm always less interested in.
When it just becomes like a scramble, and it's them manipulating what happens to kind of put you on edge and what might or what might not happen, right? When you can probably get the same type of information and be more interested in, like, if they did edit stuff and just kind of presented a scene and conversation as is.
Sam pointing out, did you hear? Yeah, we did talk about this last episode that the next season is going to be 90-minute episodes. It better not be more like I already said this. I don't want another half an hour of them like, who's the vote going to be? Who's going to be? And then like Jeff trying to ask these questions at people, that kind of.
Guys, let us know how you feel like this game of Survivor is like a runaway car.
Yeah, is it strange to you, Franny, how some people might be your ally one day and your enemy the next? Isn't that weird? Like, I get, I always come back to Johnny Fairplay in those moments and how Johnny would never give anything to Jeff at Tribal, and how Jeff hated him for it, because he was like, "I'm making a TV show here, Johnny Fairplay," and Johnny Fairplay's
like,
making
his type of TV show.
Yes, well,
Johnny Fairplay doesn't want to watch that show.
Johnny Fairplay does not want to watch that show, nor did he have any interest in being on it either. Yeah, so we get the Tribal here. And I was kind of at this point hoping that it would be Brandon. He's not been my favorite character this season. I think that, it's kind of crazy to me that they haven't voted him out yet. And so I was kind of like hoping that this would be. But they kind of say like it ultimately was going to be Jam Jam, and we see that he's got a lot of conflict because he does want to sort of leave options open with both the other 2 tribes, Soka and Ratu. He doesn't necessarily want to plant his flag on one side or the other. I don't know. I'm interested to see in the next episode if they're able to navigate that. Like if Tika can kind of have this plausible deniability of like, well, we didn't know and we did vote with you, and and because they didn't read the last vote, they don't really know. They know at least 3 people voted for Brandon, but they don't 4 did, for sure. So like this Ratu was completely blindsided. We also had Matt there, was our juror, and he was completely like giving goo eyes to Franny the whole time. Oh, there they are. So anyway,
there's only one sequence of event that is important to them too, and that's at the end of the season. Until then, I don't need to see him as a big picture on my screen. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't do anything for me. Right.
I do like this cast with some exceptions. I find a couple of like Brandon was one of the more boring characters, and I'm kind of glad to lose him just for that. Danny, not rootable, but kind of a villainous kind of a character. So I'm kind of more akin to keep him around. And I guess I think Heidi and Jamie have been less interesting to me. I think Heidi's really stepped it up in the last couple episodes. I find Jamie's still kind of dull. But that's fair. Okay. That's okay. Like they're not all going to be winners, but mostly I think this season's been a lot of fun to watch. Kane too, he's good.
I think some of the problems that we have stems from the format of the show, and some items like some people, some relationships, some conversations, and switches and blindsides happen, and there's not enough time for a lot of these people to digest it, right? So maybe like a person like Heidi and Lauren don't have enough time to like process this stuff, and then they do nothing, and then it's a whole 8 weeks of nothing practically, right? That's going
Right.
on, and there are lesser characters on this show because of it, right?
Right.
I feel like the format of the show is not allowing them to showcase the individual people. Sure, they have the backgrounds and stuff, but like a good portion of people don't read it, or when it's happening, I just move on to other stuff and then come back. Regardless, you're right. This cast is good. And it came up to a debate. I kind of mentioned it last week, where someone said that Survivor is doing a terrible job with casting. They need to improve. When you can get someone like Caroline on your reality show, you've done a good job in terms of casting.
Yeah, I know. I
Right?
agree.
That's the answer to buffs.
And I think Jam Jam is another really interesting kind of non-typical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Someone complained that Jam Jam is not an interesting character, and I'm like, he absolutely is.
100%.
Right?
Even like I find like even like people who like Carson, who I kind of like and dislike because he's like trained his whole life to be on Survivor. He's not a bad guy. He is smart. But if Jeff was here, I would make Jeff Mader, that is. I would talk about how curling, and Jaemeel, I know you don't know necessarily a lot about the sport, but I think that the analogy kind of holds true to me here, where like I used to really like to watch it on TV because it used to be way more amateur. It used to be way more localized. It used to be more like anybody could be like go to the Briar and win the Canadian Championship because most of them all had day jobs and whatever. And now it's like a professional sport like most sports. And I feel like Survivor sometimes had a lot of these like people who are just like pro TV characters, and Carolyn and Jam Jam are not that at all, and I think that's what I'd rather watch. I'd rather watch the more common types, people who are not necessarily like Instagram stars. They can be like, you're saying Carolyn's got her own social media following or whatever, but
there's a big difference between Carolyn versus some prepackaged, I have a brand that I'm trying to sell to you or to promote in whatever I do, whether it be a commercial or a reality show. I have a brand to protect. Whereas Carolyn just seems like she's living her life.
Yeah.
Her wacky, crazy, like modern day pixie dream girl life, where she's expressive, and if she marries someone, she ends up marrying this stock trader like Darman Gregg or something. Like she seems so expressive and alive in comparison to some of these other people, where it's just like they're on the show, but
yeah,
are they alive?
I think
are they person? Like
are they genuine? I think is
are you a different person, or are you this prepackaged machine who is questioning every single move you make and thing that you do? So it just comes as planned, and there's uncanny valley in terms of your attitude. Carolyn feels real. Everyone else seems kind of like a Survivor player, but like it isn't really. The
Right.
algorithm has got them.
Just as we're at the end of the episode here, I just want to like talk about. So they read like 7 Franny votes in a row, and Ratu, after having seen this immunity idol, and I think that maybe I'm curious to know. I guess Ratu had no idea that Danny was going to play this idol. No one had tipped them off. They were completely not prepared for it, or they didn't believe Danny would use the idol, and on somebody else. But he does, and
Which is good.
So this moment here where they realize it's now like, who's it going to be if you're a Ratu, and it's Brandon. Oh my gosh, they were just
womp womp.
wah, wah. Danny was so cocky about it. What happened to like the Bro Alliance? This was Team Daryl, Danny and Brandon, but it didn't happen here.
Yeah, this dude is not lasting long in this game at all.
No. But ultimately, it is Brandon who goes here. Let's see Brandon's exit interview and just hear what he had to say.
Clearly, Danny had the idol. It was a great move. I can't knock him for it. And I'm not leaving here with any regrets. I left no stone unturned. I did everything that I felt that I could to make myself proceed further in this game. And I played as hard as I could and tried to, swing as many relationships as I could. But in the end, it's Survivor. Sometimes you get caught. They were going for the big fish, and tonight they got him.
I guess I don't need the MGM lion on there, but so. But Brandon was like, "Yeah, I got," So, all right. See you later, Brandon. Have fun with Danny and Jury. Let's just update our draft for the season, Jaemeel, and have a quick look here. Maybe I need to go a little bigger here. Let's go 150. So where was Brandon? Brandon was drafted 15th overall by Daryl. He was a pretty late pick. And
I think people felt the way like we saw. He wasn't any type of player. He wasn't built for the team game, the individual game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. He was more he was not as well adapted. He was still kind of trying to play, I think, a little bit of that early game. I don't think he was really stepping it up. He didn't really understand he now had 3 tribes and 3 kind of groups of interest to kind of work out. He's just like, we have 4, so we have more. Yeah, but they have more combined, and if they don't want to work with you, not here. As I mentioned, we have 3 original. Now, after this vote, we have 3 original Tika, of course, Carolyn, Carson, Jam. Then you got, I got to take off Josh out here. So then we have, Danny, Franny, and Heidi from Soka. Yep. And on Route 2, we have Jamie, Lauren, and Kane. So interesting. Daryl's destined to Danny now. Jeff's got Jamie Lynn left. You've got Lauren left.
If she wins this game, everyone's gonna laugh. I'm gonna laugh.
I will laugh too, especially if you win this draft because Lauren wins this game. Foster's still looking good with Kane and Carolyn. I think that's still looking pretty good. I have Carson left in the game, and Jane has Franny and Heidi. She nearly lost her Franny tonight, but came out here. So that's just a quick little draft update. Let's just look ahead, Jaemeel, to next week's episode.
As soon as the move was made, I wasn't heartbroken. I wasn't betrayed. I was woken up.
Next time on Survivor.
He's always looking.
The shy part of the game is over. The Three Stooges are running this game. It's crazy.
I want to vote out Danny. I'm sick of him.
It's personal. You write my name down, you're dead.
So a few things to unpack there. We see Danny is pissing off Carolyn and maybe the rest of the tribe. He's been acting pretty cocky after this Brandon vote. We see that, I don't know who Jam is threatening death to because he didn't get his name wrote it down at the last tribal. So he must be referencing 2 tribals ago. Yeah. What else was going on in there? Kane says, I'm woke. I'm not shaken. I'm not hurt. I'm not betrayed. I'm woken up. I'm ready to play now. He lost Brandon here. He wasn't expecting it. Those surviving Rat 2 members are going to, they were on the first time for them. They were really on the other side of a vote. They were on the wrong side of a vote. I guess Kane was early when he voted for Brandon in the first tribal. But yeah,
I'm not talking that much, so I'm going to step in. Excuse my bouts of was it narcolepsy that's happening in this. I'm hearing what you're saying, Dave. I'm hearing what you're saying. I think when it comes to Kane, we all see the player that Kane is, and I think that he can really do some damage. He looks like he's smart, athletic enough. He needs to start playing an individual game because I didn't think the strategy that was happening before was not going to be something that was going to last for the long run. Brandon would eventually, once it came down to just their group or a smaller version of that group, I'm pretty sure Danny was going to hook up with Brandon if they were still there, and Kane would be on the outs because you can see the pecking order has already been decided.
Yeah, well, I think it's. Oh, the other thing we saw was that Tika's like the Three Stooges, which is the Tika Three, are running the game. But back to Kane. Kane was. We thought that it was going to be last week. This episode was called "Don't Get Cocky, Kid," and we thought that was going to be someone saying that to Carson. It ends up. It's actually Kane who says it to himself in this episode. He was saying, my motto coming out here was "Don't be cocky, kid." And so we're seeing a little bit of continuation of that in this preview for next week, and I'm also kind of excited for Kane to play this game without Brandon, because I think Brandon was a very imposing personality at the Ratu tribe. And I think Lauren was kind of his like second in command, or backed him up a lot of times on what to do. And I think that Kane was often just kind of going along with it. I think Jamie's kind of just a go along with the flow kind of thing. And so Kane is our fellow Canadian in this game, who doesn't know the words to Canada, but whatever. Maybe he can do something here in these late stages.
Maybe he can get his Canuck card back.
I'm actually hoping Danny gets voted out next week.
Yeah, I can't stand Danny. Danny is flip-flopping. Yeah.
He's not winning the game. There's no way he's going to win. No one's going to give this guy the money at the end. The guy who farted.
And he's beatable. He isn't shit. Yeah.
We see, oh yeah, in the preview, he's looking because now that he played his idol, he's just going to be searching everywhere to get a new idol. Yeah. But, I think people see how hard Danny's playing, how kind of competitive and cocky he is, and like even the way he was not happy for Lauren to win that challenge tonight. I think a lot of people are going to be like, Danny sucks. I think they've some of them have known that for a while, and are ready to move on. But if you're Soka, if you're Franny and you're Heidi, don't you need Danny, especially after he just saved Franny with that immunity idol? Like, is Franny going to turn on Danny? Like that would be pretty cold.
I think she has ice in her veins, so
yeah.
Do it. Let's see some betrayals. Let's see some hurt feelings.
Let's see it. Anything else you want to say about that preview?
No, I'm looking forward to it. I unfortunately will not be joining you next week.
Oh no?
No, I will not, because I will be on hold up.
Oh, you're doing hold up next week. Okay. Well,
yes, it's my week.
Hopefully we can get Jeff Mater to come in and
fingers crossed. Like, dude, one night.
Can we get Jeff Mater on the Super Mater Brothers podcast? It's a tough request.
It's a tough ask.
Tough ask. It will depend if the Leafs are playing. I think largely next week. They were not playing tonight though, so I can't.
They weren't playing yesterday.
Yeah, boom. Fair enough. Okay, so we'll be back next week to talk about episode, I guess it will be 9.
Yep.
Next week.
Do we have a name for the episode already?
We do actually. It is called it's called Under the Wing of a Dragon.
Oh yes.
Under the Dragon. What is that? Like, who's the dragon?
Kane or Carson are saying it. Come on. We know.
And who do you think the dragon is? Is it Danny?
The game.
The game?
Yes, okay. He found the idol, and thus he is under the wing of the dragon.
Well, there you go. Okay, well, I'll be back for the next one, and then that's a good segue. So we have our other podcasts here on the channel. You should check out. Right now, we're twice a week. We're covering Big Brother Canada 11. We didn't do tonight's. We don't do the veto episodes because we do Survivor. But Tuesdays and Thursdays, you can catch up with us as we go through this season of Big Brother Canada. It's been very interesting. I think we're in week 7 now. It's been kind of going roughly the same time as Survivor has. So check those podcasts out. Plus, we do Marvel podcasts here. Like, we like to talk about stuff in the MCU sometimes, whether that's Ant-Man and the Wasp, most recently Quantumania, or we'll be doing Guardians of the Galaxy sometime early May. And I think probably maybe after you get back from Chicago, Jaemeel. And we're part of a federation of podcasts, a United Federation of Podcasts. As Jaemeel already mentioned, Hold Up is one of those, a movie podcast every second Wednesday with Davan and Murphy. And Jaemeel, what topic are you guys doing next?
Heists
movies.
So from 1965, I believe, The Pink Panther, 1998's Out of Sight, and 2015's Victoria.
Okay, well, very cool. So check that out next week, or don't, and check out the Survivor podcast instead, or watch both. You can always watch. You don't have to watch them live. You can always watch them after the fact. We got a great roster of podcasters doing all kinds of great podcasts and different topics. There's something out there for you. I'm sure of it. Like there's on Tuesdays we have X-Rated X-Men the Animated Series review show with Andre and Davan talking about that very show. They just did a great interview with Len Yulee, a writer from that series. I still need to check that podcast out, but you should head over to their channel and see all their great content and all the episodes they reviewed. Andre from that podcast also has his own podcast called the Graphic History Podcast, where he interviews like filmmakers and comic book writers and artists and all very interesting characters through all kinds of different media. So check out his podcast as well. There's the Hellbound podcast on Wednesdays with Alex Blackburn and Michael Chan, audio only, where they talk about horror movies and they do some skits and horror, everything under the sun horror related. Alex Blackburn runs the horror festival, the Hellbound Horror Festival out there in England, and Michael Chan is on YTV. If you didn't know, he's on a show called Popularity Papers every Monday night on YTV, 6 p.m. Eastern. And Trivial Debates, a monthly show. We argue about movies, TV, sports, more. There's a host. There's 3 contestants. Most recently, Chris Murphy hosted with Jaemeel and Jason and Andre competing, where they talked about wrestling, pro wrestling, where there are all kinds of different categories. That was a great episode. We have our Live Long in podcast channel, our Star Trek theme channel, with just all kinds of lots and lots of Star Trek podcasts. It's probably our busiest channel in the network, where we do Star Trek Enterprise, Star Trek's Deep Space Nine, going back and looking at those older episodes. We went back and looked at all the original series episodes and the movies, and we're keeping up with all the new stuff. Like tomorrow, we'll be talking about the finale of season 3 of Star Trek Picard. Tonight we had our science division led by Davan. He was doing a all women's debate 9. It was with my wife competing, Jane Mader, and Ashley Millard, and Dave Pugsley's wife, Katie Pugsley, for the first time on the channel. Very excited to have that, and it was at the exact same time as Survivor, so I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I will be, and you should be too. And we do like our Star Trek radio theater shows, and we do all kinds of fun stuff. We're gonna tomorrow, even before we do Picard, Davan and I are gonna be reacting to the new Strange New Worlds trailer. We're going to be talking about the news that there's a new Starfleet Academy show in development, and that they're making a Section 31 movie, a special movie event with Michelle Yeoh, Academy Award winners Michelle Yeoh. So all kinds of amazing stuff going on. Lastly, we have there's KBBL, a Simpsons podcast on Fridays, where they talk about the episodes of Simpsons. That's Davan, Francis, and Baker. And the newest addition to the network is Eamon on Track. My son, Eamon Mader, reviewing music albums. We've had 2 episodes out so far. It's a brand new channel, needs subscribers, needs clicks, and get in there and listen. We talked about Hamilton.
Don't you dare miss it.
Hamilton, a musical album from 2015, first episode. And the second episode was Davan and Eamon discussing King of the Delta Blues, a Robert Johnson album. It was published in the 1960s, but it was actually all recorded in the 1930s. So some fun stuff over there. Thanks for being with us tonight. And on that note, I think we know what we need to go out on here, Jaemeel. Here, we know what it is. You got a twist. All right, we'll see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.
You got a twist!